Hello, wonderful interpreters, and thank you again for tuning in. LNI has decided to look for a new vendor for the scheduling system, and we have more information about this. Please watch this entire video until the end for all of the details. Now let's get started. Now, this is the LNI announcement from last week on August 2nd. It says right here that they are looking for a new vendor for the scheduling system and to provide on-demand, in-person video and phone interpretation services. And it also says here that they're doing this because they have gathered feedback from providers, interpreters, and workers about how to improve the system. Now, does this sound like a good thing to you? I just don't trust LNI's track record when it comes to this. This announcement raises concerns for us because, well, they're flat out telling you that on-demand appointments will be managed by the new vendor, thus taking away direct billing for independent interpreters completely. Looks like we won't be able to bill directly for video and phone interpretation services as well, just like we did during the pandemic thanks to Washington interpreters and our advocacy. There's no mention about bringing mileage reimbursement back for interpreters. Overall, it looks like LNI is setting up the stage to get rid of in-person interpretation anytime in the future, in my humble opinion. And many interpreters have reached out to us with questions and concerns about this. This interpreter here is concerned about LNI phasing out all the interpreters with the monopoly of a vendor, since all programs will be in the system by default and possibly taking our provider numbers away. I mean, I agree that this could happen since on-demand appointments will be on the system from now on, it looks like. What's really sad about this is that Washington interpreters warned you about this years ago, since we have been defending in-person interpretation as the main modality. That's a fact, even since our inception. But you know me by now, so in order to get more information, I actually registered in the bidding process, as you see here, to be able to dig out more details. So let's see what's going on with this. And to start with this whole thing, you can see here the description of opportunity for a new vendor, showing that LNI is soliciting bids for the scheduling system and all interpreting modalities. It's really weird to me that they have not included how much money the contract is going to be worth, since they are asking a new vendor to do even more this time around. You can also see a list of vendors registered to bid on the contract or just to get more information. And as I just told you, I did register to get information only. That's why my name appears here. But these are the companies that have registered so far in the bidding process as of August 8th. We can also see right here from the get-go that the Four Corners Translations LLC company is here. This is the language agency that I covered in one of my videos a few months ago, which was awarded a contract not long ago for DSHS and DCYF jobs here in Washington State, and that WFSE leaders lied to you about not knowing any of this. You remember that? Well, they're also now bidding for the LNI contract. And here are more of the companies that registered for the bidding process, including several local companies that you may identify here, just like Universal Language Services. Not a lot of companies here have registered so far compared to the last time, as the list of companies is fitting in only one page, as you can see. Now, this is one of the solicitation documents that LNI has posted here. You can see the schedule for the whole process and the due date for bids, which is September 11th this year. They are moving way faster with this process compared to the last time, don't you think? They don't have a date to execute a contract yet, but it surely looks like they're in a rush right now. Oh wow, I wonder why. As we continue, you can read the background of the whole process and LNI explaining what the law requires them to do. Now look at this fun fact they're sharing with us here. They're saying that currently 7% of interpretation services are on-demand appointments, meaning walk-in, emergency, and urgent care appointments. Now this is funny to me because the percentage for these appointments was actually 20% just 2 years ago, right before they implemented their scheduling system, but now it's only 7%. What does that tell you? Please remember to pause this video at any time in order to read the information that you see on the screen. Here you can see a breakdown of the qualifications that they expect the selected bidder to meet, including 1 year of experience with online scheduling systems and being able to handle L&I's volume of appointments for all interpreting modalities. Now, as a preferred qualification, L&I wants a system with the capacity to provide video and phone interpretation, get this, with Zoom and Microsoft Teams software. Really? You know, this is priceless. I mean, can't you see the irony here? These are apps that interpreters have on their phone or can have access to them for free because they are free apps. You can have these apps on your phone, laptop, tablet, or personal computer in order to cover these appointments. Oh, I don't know, just like we did during the pandemic situation. Do you remember that? Does that sound familiar? Oh, but now they want to pay a company to use these apps instead of paying interpreters directly. And who knows if these companies or whoever gets this contract is going to be allowed to take commission from us. We don't know that yet, but let's continue because there's more. So it turns out to be that now L&I wants the vendor to provide ID badges to interpreters that can be used to verify appointments with the system. Now, this is a good idea, of course, instead of having a company tracking interpreters on their phones. Now, do you know why I think this is a good idea? Because I actually proposed this. I suggested this to Susan Campbell back in 2018 before they had a chance to implement anything. And of course, they listened to the suggestions but didn't do anything about it. But at least they're doing it now, even if it is 5 years later, right? Better late than never, I guess. But now, read at the bottom of the image here. They're still expecting interpreters to drive up to 50 miles for in-person appointments without any mention of bringing mileage reimbursement back. Of course. Here, they continue saying that the contract will be for 3 years. They intend to select only one contractor, but they may issue multiple contracts depending on the responses they get from this process. Sure, you remember last time around, they said the same thing and ended up selecting just one company. I mean, let's see what happens this time, right? L&I also says that they will honor existing bargaining agreements, but we do not have a certified union yet. And this is particularly surprising, or maybe not so surprising anymore, but it's L&I because, the problem is that L&I is planning to implement more changes to our working conditions when the election has not even ended for L&I interpreters. Yes, we're still in the election process because we do not have a certified union yet, and PERC has to listen and read and examine, evaluate our objections, and make a decision on them, and that has not happened yet. If you remember, changing working conditions in the middle of an election process is illegal. Remember, that's why we submitted an unfair labor practice complaint back in 2021 against L&I. And this brings me to inform you that we filed a reply brief to the Washington State Court of Appeals Division 2, appealing our unfair labor practice complaint before them. You can also see here that we filed this on July 31st, last month, and we're just waiting for a court date at this point. So the reality is that regardless of how many times we get denied by judges without a backbone to make L&I accountable, the fact is that it was illegal for L&I to change our working conditions in the middle of our election process. We have been right all this time. The only excuse that L&I has is saying that they were justified in doing so just because they let interpreters know about their plans ahead of time. I'm sorry, but that's not a sound legal argument for breaking the law. And hopefully, the Court of Appeals will agree with us this time around, taking into account all of the evidence that we have provided to support our arguments. So we have essentially submitted everything required from us so far, and we will let you know once we have a court date. So please stay tuned. In closing, I want to say a few things to you, whether or not you are a long-time established L&I interpreter pre-scheduling system, or even if you are an interpreter that started taking appointments after the implementation of the scheduling system. You see, 5 years ago, back in 2018, I decided to fight for my job in our industry when WFSE was trying to codify all of these changes that you see here today into law. You see, we saw all of this coming even back then. That's why we have been defending in-person interpreting as the main modality over video technologies. And I particularly sounded the alarm and exposed WFSE for favoring these technologies. And we also told you that the only way to prevent these changes from happening was to form our own independent union so we could negotiate these changes. And not voting for the union that fought for 10 years to implement these changes and force this agenda upon us without representation and without a vote. Since then, we started the election process. WFSE has cheated 3 times already. L&I illegally implemented their system and took away our mileage with suggestions from WFSE leaders. Then they limited independent interpreters to on-demand appointments only while blaming appointment monopolies for that decision, when they had already deactivated the language agencies that they blamed this behavior in the first place to begin with. And unfortunately, these appointment monopolies still exist today and are allowed to happen under this scheduling system. And do you know why? Because the only effective way for these appointment monopolies to stop is for L&I to go also after the medical providers and facilities who actually take bribes, expensive gifts, and allow this behavior to happen in the first place. Oh, you know this. You know those individuals back in the day. They're still doing their thing, offering these bribes and expensive plane tickets to exotic locations all around the world in exchange of patients. And monopolies? Of course. And no scheduling system is going to change that. And how do I know this is happening? Because I believe the interpreters. And we've received many reports of this behavior still happening in many pain management programs and mental health and all that stuff where they have the preferred interpreter, which has been abused. It's a good tool, but it has been abused. Now, what's Interpreting Works or L&I doing about it? Tell me when it's still happening. Exactly nothing. Now, even though this has been brewing for years, the decision for L&I to get a new vendor and consolidate all of these modalities under a new scheduling system, this is actually a threat that's intensifying against our profession and against ourselves as interpreters. Yes, this is happening. Do you really think that L&I is going to keep paying top dollar for interpretation services when they're told later on and they fall in love with these video and phone technologies, and these people say to L&I, hey, you don't have to pay so much for this. This is way cheaper, and we're using free apps like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. Huh? Don't you think that they could do this for half of what we get paid nowadays or less? Oh, you don't believe me? Well, please do yourself a favor and find a ULS interpreter who covers these appointments, video and phone appointments. Ask them how much they get paid for those appointments. And better yet, ask them whether or not they get paid for no-shows and late cancellations for those appointments. Yeah, it's going to be interesting what you hear from them. Because from what I hear, they don't get paid for no-shows and cancellations for these appointments. And the geniuses from WFSE, those leaders, oh, you know what they said? Oh, the state doesn't have to pay that much because they're not out there driving. Yes, the same people that said you shouldn't be paid to drive, only to interpret. And then when you interpret from home, it's like your services don't have any value because you're at home, so you should get paid less. Yes, those geniuses, and those geniuses are the ones that many of you voted for. Congratulations, great job. This is what we're getting in the L&I system, and this is what they'll protect if they get to be the union. You know, it's funny because during the election process in the 3 elections, I've heard so many comments like, oh, WFSE's too powerful to be defeated. Oh, we need a union that's so powerful and has all of the resources, and that's why they voted for WFSE. It's so funny because those interpreters never stop to think for a minute that the only power that WFSE has is the power that they themselves gave them by voting for them. Yes, they chose to listen to instigators, people from other unions that could never be on the ballot, and people that are not even interpreters today. Some of these people are paralegals, okay, running the same scam and monopolies they were running before the scheduling system, okay? They're still doing that with the same appointment monopolies. That racket still exists. So yes, many interpreters chose to listen to those people, armchair lawyers, and not even interpreters anymore. And that's why we're here. So yes, it is frustrating and sad at the same time because a good amount of those interpreters chose hate, listening to rumors, innuendos, agendas, and they chose fear and intimidation instead of choosing unity and taking action. So at this point, you may be asking yourselves, Juan, why are you telling us all of this? You know, like, are you lashing out? No, I'm expressing frustration because it's not like we were not told of these changes. It's not like we were not warned because we did warn you. We did expose all of this. And it's really frustrating because the same people that complain about these things keep on choosing the wrong people. But in the end, Washington interpreters set out on this journey to fight until the bitter end. That's the point of this conversation that I'm having at the end of this video. Okay. However, we're not guaranteed another shot at the election. I don't know if PERC would grant us another election, even when WFSE cheated. I pray they do. I pray we have another election so we have another chance to set aside some petty differences between us. And so we could vote for the right independent union and take charge of our industry. But make no mistake, if we don't get that chance anymore, if WFSE ends up being the union when they promoted all of these changes and are clearly favoring video and phone interpretation over what we do, remember, if you voted for WFSE, you're going to have to live with that decision because at the end of the day, it's on you. You and only you have the power to vote for the people that are going to be in charge of defending you. It's all about you. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.